mysterious and comprehensive personality test is used to detect psychiatric problems. It is perhaps most commonly used in the legal system when we evaluate the criminally insane. It is also one of the instruments that the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America uses to evaluate its candidates for ordained ministry. I don't remember the exact wording of some of the questions, but they were strange. Stuff like, true or false? I am a special messenger of God. If a horse won't move, you should kick it. I hear strange voices in my head. God speaks to me. Well, as you might imagine, sometimes candidates for the ordained ministry score about the same as some of the criminally insane. And I must confess to you that I do believe God speaks to me, that I do, in fact, hear voices in my head. And sometimes I think I am special, and that I am called to be a messenger of God. Insane or ordained? I'm not sure. Sing with me. Give me a listening heart, a quiet place to pray. Open up my soul, that I might hear your voice this day. Spirit of wisdom, pour yourself on me, that I might know your will, that I might be free. Today's gospel talks about recognizing the voice of the Good Shepherd. How good are you at recognizing voices? We're going to give you a little test. These are celebrities, personalities. See if you recognize their voices.
Walmart announced this week they're laying off 800 people at the headquarters. That causes there's a ripple effect here, you know. For every
Any guesses? Try another one. Oh, is it? Okay.
Walmart announced this week they're laying off 800 people at the headquarters. That causes there's a ripple effect here, you know. For every
Someone say Jay Leno? All right, Dr. Dorsey. This may not go as easy as I thought it'd do. You better get this one.
We are just now beginning to learn the extent of the...
Obama. Okay, good. Okay. We won't do all the rest of them that you probably don't know. So sometimes we're pretty good at recognizing voices. Someone calls on the phone, and if it's a friend or something, they don't have to say who they are. You know who they are. You recognize their voice. But how good are we at recognizing God's voice? What does your God conversation sound like? I don't know about you, but when I hear God speaking to me, it sounds an awful lot like me, like my voice. And that's the big part of the confusion. Is it me or is it God? Is it me pretending to be God? Hoping and wishing to be God? It's hard to figure that out sometimes. Give me a listening heart, a quiet place to pray. Open up my soul, that I might hear your voice this day. Spirit of wisdom, pour yourself on me, that I might know your will, that I might be free. I suppose my problem is not that I hear voices or that I believe God is speaking to me, but that sometimes I just don't know how to recognize when it's God's voice. In today's gospel, Jesus says that the sheep, his flock, know the voice of their keeper, and they will recognize that voice, and they will follow it. And if a stranger shows up, they'll recognize that voice, and they will run away from it. I'm not so sure it's that easy for me. I struggle in my conversation with God. Perhaps you do too. So today I'd like to share some wisdom with you, some wise counsel that comes from the teaching of Martin Luther. Luther taught that it was the duty of every Christian to be able to distinguish the difference between the law and the gospel and put each in its appropriate place. He taught that God's word came to us in two ways, as law and gospel. We need to distinguish which is which and put each in its proper place. Now, the law serves only to lead us to Christ. It does not save us, nor is it to be used to define us. It does not belong in our hearts. It is only the gospel that saves us, and it is only the gospel that should define us, and it is only the gospel that we should allow into the depths of our hearts. That's what I use to make sense of my theological conversations in my head. That's the principle I use to determine what is the voice of the Good Shepherd and the voice of a stranger. So what does that look like? Sometimes I stand before the mirror, literally and figuratively, and the voice inside of my head begins to point out all my limitations and all my flaws. It's a critical voice that needs to be listened to very carefully. Sometimes it speaks the truth. Sometimes it stretches and distorts the truth. And sometimes it speaks outright lies to me. Sometimes it produces guilt that is helpful in my confession. But most of the times it produces guilt that destroys me. This is the voice of the law. A voice that can be helpful but is dangerous. But either way, it is not the voice that leads me or should define me. It's not the voice I need to let go into my heart. Luther wrote that the law kills and does not give life. It does not belong in our hearts. It will never save us. Sometimes I stand before the mirror, literally and figuratively, and the voice inside my head speaks of dreams that inspires me, calls me out into the world with purpose. It's a voice that discovers and affirms my gifts and my beauty. This is the voice of the shepherd, the Good Shepherd. And my task as a Christian is to open up my heart wide and let this voice deep within me. Now, the voice of the law almost always accuses this other voice of being nothing more than fantasy or wishful thinking, and it seeks to pull me away from its truth. Yet it is the voice of the gospel, the one that gives life, the voice that we long to listen to, the voice that calls us out into salvation, into our vocation, into life abundant. Give me a listening heart, a quiet place to pray. Open up my soul, that I might hear your voice this day. Spirit of wisdom, pour yourself on me, that I might know your will, that I might be free.